Hi, thank you for clicking on the video, and I hope everyone is doing really well. So today's video, I'm going to be talking about recovery and relationships, specifically romantic relationships. And I just want to talk about how having an ED can impact your relationship, as well as how being in recovery doesn't automatically solve those relationship issues that may have arisen because of your ED. So first off, it's important to recognize the effects of having an ED or having a poor relationship with food or a poor relationship with your body, how those things affect your relationship with your partner. I have notes on my phone, so I will be kind of reading from there. So first of all, eating disorders require secrecy and isolation, both of which are fuel at destroying a relationship with anybody. A healthy relationship needs vulnerability, honesty, and open communication. All these things an eating disorder hates. The more the disordered behaviors continue and they grow more extreme, the more distance forms between partners, both physically and mentally. The person suffering may come across as though they are rejecting their partner or pushing them away, which in turn may cause their partner to leave or look elsewhere for companionship, which in turn proves to the eating disorder sufferer that they are unlovable, which reinforces the disordered behaviors. While doing my research and taking my notes, I read a bunch of websites that talked about recovery, eating disorders, relationships. A lot of the websites talked about how the eating disorder can feel like a third wheel, but the more I read and the more I thought about it from like firsthand experience, I think what it really feels like is the partner is the third wheel. They feel like they are a third wheel in their own relationship because the eating disorder takes priority over them. Because when you have an eating disorder, it's all consuming. It is the most important thing. It is your means of control or your coping mechanism. It's your thing. It becomes your person while your actual person is left on the sidelines to watch you be with something else, basically. There are three main areas of a relationship that are the building blocks, and those three building blocks of a good relationship are affected quite drastically by an eating disorder. The first one is obviously communication. When you have an eating disorder, you isolate yourself, you pull back, you push people away, you want to be alone. It's very difficult to be alone when there's another person involved in your life. The bridges of communication start to crumble because the person suffering begins to slowly not communicate anymore with their partner. They start keeping their feelings to themselves. It starts by just keeping their negative emotions to themselves because they're like, I can cope on my own with my negative emotions. This is how I cope. I destroy myself. And by not sharing what's going on with you with your partner, that breaks down the communication of that relationship. And of course, people always say communication is the most important part of a relationship. We could get into that in a different video if you're interested. So as you pull away, you're breaking communication. And even when good things are happening, it's hard to communicate that because the eating disorder doesn't really want you to be happy, so it's hard to be happy. That leads into the second area that is severely affected, and that is your emotional health. Now, as individuals, we have our own emotional health, our own mental health. When you bring two people together, it's like your struggles are my struggles, and my struggles are your struggles. Like, we share the burden of what's going on. My emotional health, it's not their responsibility. It is now part of the relationship, and we should be together trying to help each other stay strong, cope in healthy ways. And when you are not communicating anything, you're breaking down your own emotional health as well as the other person's emotional health because they are watching you suffer helplessly, not knowing what to do. When they do try to help, it is usually met with backlash or rejection, and that can take your mental state, your mental health can take a hit. The third area that is severely affected is intimacy. When you hate your body, you assume everyone else hates it. which means you don't want other people to see it. Because if you don't want to see it, why would anybody else want to see it? That can really break a relationship when you just want to hide, even from your partner, even from the one person who, in theory, should be unconditionally loving you, unconditionally accepting you. There should be no judgment there, but you have brainwashed yourself to believe this person is going to reject me, so better to reject them first. That hurts both parties. Like, eating disorders destroy relationships. How does recovery impact a relationship? It doesn't make it instantly easier. If you think an eating disorder can break a relationship, recovery can too. Your partner wants what's best for you. If they've never experienced what you experience, which a lot of people haven't, it's very hard for them to understand. From personal experience, it has been difficult to feel accepted by my partner, even in recovery, because in my brain, it's like, I know they think X, Y, and Z is irrational. I know it's irrational, but my brain is telling me it's true, and it is impacting me. It is affecting me negatively, and I don't know what to do about it. And my partner, I feel like, is almost laughing at me or is rolling their eyes at me, and they think I'm absolutely ridiculous. I feel ridiculous. It reinforces that lack of communication, because it's like, why should I share anything with someone who doesn't get it? And I think partners need to learn how to just be an uncritical person in aiding in this person's recovery. You have to learn how to not be judgmental. And it's gonna be hard, and I think people need to be patient. Both sides need to be very patient with the other person. Recovery is something you learn day to day. Aiding someone in recovery is something you learn day to day. Recovery doesn't click right away for everyone. Helping someone through recovery doesn't click right away for everyone. Everyone's recovery journey is very different. That means if a partner is involved, that partner's contribution to recovery is also going to look very different. And you need to work together. You need to rebuild that communication with each other so that the one person feels free and unjudged to ask for help or to be able to communicate what they need from the other person, and the other person needs to be willing to ask, what do you need from me? And a willingness to do what that person says. If that person says, I just need like an hour alone, give them that hour. If that person says, I just want you to sit next to me, sit next to them. Whatever the person is asking of you, as long as it is healthy, safe, it might seem absurd. It might seem like, what? Just do it. That's what that person needs to cope with what they're dealing with, to make it another day in recovery. The person suffering also needs to be aware that the person helping you is clueless. You're teaching them how to help you. So you also have to be patient. So I want to talk about experiences that I have had with past relationships that have been awful and not beneficial to my recovery. So of course, I have talked in the past about my relationship that I used to have when my eating disorder was at its peak awfulness. I have also talked about some of my actually really good ex-relationships that, yes, they've ended, but they were great, and they ended for other reasons other than animosity. Even though I was still suffering and I was still going through my eating disorder, I feel like those good relationships actually help me now recognize a decent partner who will stand by me and support me through recovery. And then recently I have had some relationships or some situationships that have been terrible for my recovery. This is not to put blame on those people. I make my choices. I am responsible for my actions. I decided to do disordered behaviors. I chose to do that. It is not putting blame on the partner. You have to also recognize that a partner, you're part of this now. Like, you're part of it. So you either aid in my recovery or you deter it. Is that a word? I think that's a word. Basically, you make it harder. So you can either make it easier or you can make it harder. That's your choice. And it's my choice to react. I have been with some overly critical partners in my most recent past. These people lack the ability to look inward at their own flaws and shortcomings. They're so focused on, let me point out everything that's wrong with you, then I don't have to look at what's wrong with me. So I'm going to be overly critical of you. Why? And I'm telling you this because these are red flags that you want to look for. If you're with someone, if you're starting to be with someone, you're getting to know someone, and if you notice they're being a little bit critical of you, you need to get away from that person. That person is not going to help you. But if a person points out things that you know are shortcomings of your own, it's like, okay, awesome. But then if they never do it for themselves, like they never seem to think they're doing anything wrong, that's a red flag. You should be able to communicate with your partner or potential partner, like, hey, you doing this doesn't help me. I never felt safe to do that with some of the people that I have, dated in the past. And you should feel safe. If you don't feel safe to communicate, then that's not a good partner. I've been criticized recently for how I eat, and this person knows I struggle with eating disorders, and it's like, what? Why would you, what? Pretty much anything you could criticize someone for, they did. They, plural, like there have been multiple people throughout the years who have done this. I don't need that. It made me doubt my own recovery, which is never a good thing. The other thing that I want to talk about is having a partner who doesn't prioritize you. Same people as the ones who criticized me. Fancy that. Toxic people much? I wasn't important enough, which is weird. I'm your partner. But okay, back to that third wheel feeling. It's like, if you're not going to prioritize me, at least the eating disorder prioritizes me. Kind of, in a sick way. I do so well, and then I end up being with someone super toxic, and I find myself all of a sudden one day I wake up and I'm like, what am I thinking? Oh, no, I am better than this, but somehow I've fallen back into this trap of beating myself down because I allow my partner's words to infiltrate all the progress that I've done. I'm not saying go break up with your partner if you're like, right now, go do it. No, it's just like, have you had that conversation with them? Do you feel safe? Do you feel like you can communicate? Your person should want what's best for you. And if you feel like the person doesn't, why are you with them? I think that's the moral of the story. Like, why was I with these people who I'm like, you don't have my best interest in mind at all? That is what I wanted to talk about today. I think what spurred me on to want to talk about effects of eating disorders and recovery in relationships is because the ending of some of my most recent relationships, and they ended because they were not aiding in my recovery. In fact, they were making it a lot harder for me to recover. You can't recover without people, but you can recover without a partner, let me tell you. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you did not enjoy it, you can give it a thumbs down. That is cool too. I don't mind. If you are not subscribed already, please consider subscribing and be sure to hit the notification bell to stay notified of all future uploads. If you have any comments, questions, video suggestions, anything at all, feel free to leave that in the comment section below. Be sure to go follow me over on Instagram, and I will see you next time. Bye!